How's it going, everyone? It is ZLR, and today I am doing my Week 9 recap for the UFL season. And this week, pretty good week for the games. But anyway, first game we had was the St. Louis Battlehawks and the San Antonio Brahmas, with the Battlehawks winning that one 39-13. Ooh boy, my team does not look good at all. But we did have Max Duggan complete 12 passes out of 17 for 133 yards and a touchdown. Brandon Silvers, sorry about my phone just falling there. It had it had he had 7 completions out of 10 attempts for 100 yards and a touchdown. For the rushing side of things, we had uh I think it's Kevon Latulis Latulis with 8 attempts at rushing for 66 yards and a touchdown. Jarvian Howard had 12 attempts at rushing for 60 yards and a touchdown. Jacob Sailors had 6 attempts at rushing for 33 yards. Gary Jennings Jr. had 1 attempt at rushing for 8 yards. Max Duggan had 1 attempt at rushing for 6 yards. And Brandon Silvers had 4 attempts at rushing for -4 yards. And we had Jacor Pearson, 6 receptions, 71 yards. Hakeem Butler, 5 receptions, 66 yards and a touchdown. Blake Jackson, 2 receptions, 42 yards. Frank Darby, 2 receptions, 23 yards and a touchdown. Jacob Sailors, 2 receptions, 15 yards. Jarvian Howard, 1 reception for 9 yards. And Jake Sutherland, 1 reception for 7 yards. For the Brahmas side of things, Kellen Mond, 14 completions out of 26 attempts for 103 yards. Jashawn Corbin had 14 attempts at rushing for 85 yards and a touchdown. Aiden Robbins had 7 attempts at rushing for 24 yards. Kellen Mond had 4 attempts at rushing for 20 yards. And Jaden Sheridan had 3 attempts at rushing for 10 yards. We had John Trey Kirkland, 5 receptions, 44 yards. Marquez Stevenson, 3 receptions, 20 yards. D. Anderson, 2 receptions, 12 yards. Jacob Harris, 1 reception, 9 yards. Aiden Robbins, 1 reception, 7 yards. Jashawn Corbin, 1 reception, 6 yards. And Greg Ward, 1 reception for 5 yards. Then we had the Birmingham Stallions and the Michigan Panthers go at it, with the Stallions win at 26-22, and this one was a pretty close game. Danny Etling had 23 completions out of 39 attempts for 236 yards and 2 touchdowns. Toa Taua had 12 attempts at rushing for 47 yards and a touchdown. Nate McCrary had 9 attempts at rushing for 44 yards. And Danny Etling had 3 attempts at rushing for 15 yards. Seosi Mariner had 5 receptions, 115 yards, and a touchdown. Jalen Moore had 4 receptions, 39 yards. Malik Turner had 4 receptions, 30 yards. Cole Hikutini had 4 receptions, 27 yards. Toa Taua had 4 receptions, 15 yards. Gunnar Oaks had 1 reception, 6 yards, and a touchdown. Samson Nakua had 1 reception for 4 yards. And for the Stallion side of things, we had Jamar Smith complete 22 passes out of 31 attempts, 307 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He also had 7 attempts at rushing for 30 yards. Larry Roundtree had 3 attempts at rushing for 21 yards and 2 touchdowns. And CJ Marable had 10 attempts at rushing for 18 yards. If I didn't mention that Jamar Smith had 2 touchdowns for passing, I'm just going to mention that now. Cade Johnson had 3 receptions, 82 yards. Jalen Camp had 2 receptions, 58 yards. Deion Kane had 4 receptions, 55 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Amari Rogers had 2 receptions, 32 yards. CJ Marable had 3 receptions, 26 yards. Jordan Thomas had 1 reception, 17 yards. Davion Davis had 3 receptions, 15 yards. Marlon Williams had 1 reception, 10 yards. Jace Sternberger had 2 receptions, 8 yards. And Larry Roundtree had 1 reception for 4 yards. Then we had the Arlington Renegades go up against the Memphis Showboats, where the Renegades won 30-12. This one, pretty good game from the Renegades. We had Luis Perez complete 20 passes out of 30 attempts for 206 yards and 2 touchdowns. Holton Ahlers had 1 completion out of 1 attempt for 2 yards and a touchdown. Day Hunter had 13 attempts at rushing. I don't know why that's not going down. He had 13 attempts at rushing for 67 yards. Marquette King had 1 attempt at rushing for 37 yards. Tony Jones Jr. had 7 attempts at rushing for 18 yards. Javonta Payton had 1 attempt at rushing for 15 yards and a touchdown. And Luis Perez had 3 attempts at rushing for -3 yards. Tyler Vaughns had 8 receptions, 107 yards, and a touchdown. Deontay Burnett had 4 receptions, 42 yards, and a touchdown. Sal Cannella had 3 receptions, 25 yards. Day Hunter had 3 receptions, 23 yards. Javonta Payton had 1 reception, 9 yards. Seth Green had 2 receptions, 2 yards, and a touchdown. And that's really about it. For the Showboat side of things, we had EJ Perry, 5 completions of 11 attempts, 89 yards. And Dresser Wynn, 7 completions, 16 attempts, 83 yards, and a interception. I believe this was the only interception that happened this week. Deneric Prince had 11 attempts at rushing for 22 yards. Jalen Jackson had 6 attempts at rushing for 16 yards. Dresser Wynn had 2 attempts at rushing for 2 yards, and EJ Perry had 1 attempt at rushing for 2 yards. Isaiah Washington had 3 receptions, 54 yards. Elijah Stove had 1 reception, 49 yards. Kawami Lassiter had 2 receptions, 29 yards. Isaiah Henney had 1 reception, 12 yards. Kai Loxley had 1 reception, 9 yards. Jalen Jackson had 2 receptions, 8 yards. J.J. Wilson had 1 reception, 6 yards. And Dawood Davis had 1 reception for 5 yards. I will also get that guy that had the interception. I believe he was for the Arlington Renegades. Yep, Donald Payne. 7 total tackles, 4 solo, 1 interception. And last but not least, the game that we literally had today, but most of you guys might see this video tomorrow. The Houston Roughnecks and the DC Defenders, with the Roughnecks win at 24-21 in a pretty close game, but not really close at all. I don't really know what happened that game, but anyway, Mike DeLilio, not too sure. 17 completions out of 29 attempts, 206 yards, and a touchdown. And Jordan Teamu had 14 completions out of 22 attempts, 165 yards, and a touchdown. They had 371 combined passing yards in that game. Pretty good. Deion Jackson, 10 attempts at rushing for 57 yards and a touchdown. Abram Smith, 5 attempts at rushing for 14 yards. Mike DeLilio, 3 attempts at rushing for 9 yards. And Jordan Teamu, 2 attempts at rushing for 7 yards. Gonna move my phone back up here. Cornell Powell, 8 receptions, 104 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Chris Rowland, 7 receptions for 76 yards. Ben Breshna, Breshnahan with 1 reception, 53 yards. Briley Moore, 2 receptions, 29 yards. Javon Antonio, 2 receptions, 24 yards. Seth Williams, 4 receptions, 22 yards. Mason Fairchild, 2 receptions, 19 yards. Jaden Mickens, 3 receptions, 17 yards. Spencer Sanders, 1 reception, 14 yards. And Abram Smith, 1 reception for 13 yards. For the Roughneck side of things, we had Jalen McClendon, 21 completions out of 30 attempts, 232 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Lorenzo Lingard had 8 attempts at rushing for 80 yards and a touchdown. Jalen McClendon had 9 attempts at rushing for 23 yards. Zaquandre White had 1 attempt at rushing for 4 yards. And Kirk Merritt had 1 attempt at rushing, got nothing out of it. Justin Hill had 10 receptions for 126 yards. Kiki Chisholm had 3 receptions, 34 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Emmanuel Butler had 2 receptions for 24 yards. Cam Sutton had 2 receptions, 19 yards. Kirk Merritt had 2 receptions, 18 yards. Jorquarius Spivey, 1 reception, 8 yards. And Lorenzo Lingard, 1 reception, 3 yards. And that is going to be it for this week's edition of the recap. And we got 1 more week until the playoffs. That's going to be a fun time. But anyway, hope you guys like, subscribe, comment, do really whatever you want to do. And as always, I will see you all in the next video. See you around.